welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. It is not the first time that defamatory words have been thrown at opposition leader Benjamin Netanyahu, especially before an upcoming national election. But it is perhaps one of the first public displays coming from his intended senior coalition partner, Bezalel Smotrich. On Sunday, a leaked audio recording of the head of the far-right religious Zionism party was aired on Kan, Israel's state broadcaster. In the recording, Smotrich called the opposition leader a liar and said that he was trouble. The big question here is, could this just be friendly fire, or is it now evidence of public cracks in their alliance? I24 News senior correspondent Bianca Zanini explains.
The liar of all liars. These words from far-right leader Bezalel Smotrich in newly leaked audio attacking former Prime Minister and current premiership candidate Benjamin Netanyahu.
If I wanted to take 2 seats from Bibi, I should have laid into him. He is the liar of all liars. He didn't want to go with Ra'am. He was desperate to. Netanyahu won't stay forever. Physics and biology will take their course. Eventually he'll be found guilty in court, or I don't know what. We just need a little patience. There's no doubt that Netanyahu is trouble, all right? But now you have to choose between troubles.
Smotrich accused Netanyahu of trying to join forces with the Islamist Ra'am party after the last elections in 2021. Netanyahu denies this and has since publicly criticized the inclusion of Arab parties in government, calling Ra'am terror supporters. Ra'am joined the coalition government, which collapsed in June this year. The far-right leader of the religious Zionism party said Netanyahu's days in politics are numbered and that he might be found guilty in his ongoing criminal trial, which resumed this Monday. Although Netanyahu is no stranger to attacks, this one comes from within his right-wing religious bloc.
It's a kind of a friendly fire. Someone from his own bloc is saying it. Not only from his own bloc, but someone who is the principal partner in the coalition that Bibi is planning to form. So it is a problem, but it's still inside his own bloc, inside the right-wing bloc, so it will not change the map between the two main blocs.
Bezalel Smotrich released a statement saying the recording was an old one and that he won't allow conflict between him and Netanyahu. Meanwhile, controversial Jewish power leader and far-right electoral partner Itamar Ben-Gvir commented on the recording, saying he disliked what he heard and that there is no need for personal attacks. In a statement responding to the audio leak, Netanyahu called on Smotrich to hold the friendly fire and remember the goal: to fight together against current Prime Minister Yair Lapid, his bloc, and Ra'am.
Meanwhile, in a statement released on Monday, Benjamin Netanyahu said that he forgives Smotrich for his, quote, defamatory words, but the opposition leader avoided commenting directly on the content of the far-right leader's accusation. Take a listen.
Lapid wants to be the largest party so that the task of forming the government will be assigned to him. The only way to stop the plan of Lapid and Abbas is for the Likud to be the largest party by a huge margin. That's why I forgive Smotrich for his slanderous words. We must stop shooting inside the APC. We must mobilize the entire right to prevent the continuation of the Lapid-Abbas government, which endangers the future of Israel. Once was enough for us. If Ben-Gvir and Smotrich get one more or less mandate, it doesn't change anything, because they will be ministers in our government in any case. But if the Likud is a mandate or 2 less than Lapid, it could give Lapid the government. That's why the Likud must win by a landslide, so that we establish a strong and stable right-wing government for a good 4 years.
And joining me now in studio to discuss this further is Ruthie Blum, columnist for the Jewish News Syndicate, and Bradley Burston, columnist for the Haaretz Daily. Thank you both very much for coming on. Ruthie, I'd like to start with you. Netanyahu says that he forgives Smotrich, but just how authentic is this sort of forgiveness? I mean, the comments were relatively damaging from an insider.
I'll tell you something. It's politics, okay? This is not an issue of love lost or gained. Netanyahu has a goal, and his goal is to form a government, and he needs Smotrich's party for that purpose, to that end. And so what he's saying is, you know what? Let's leave our personal animosities to the side, and let's get down with the business of winning this election.
Is he correct, though? I want to bring you into the conversation here. Netanyahu fell short of a majority the last time and made generous offices, according to Smotrich, to the Islamic Ram Party. Is he correct in saying that? Because Netanyahu has denied these claims all along.
I think it's fair to say that he did try very hard to interest Ram into joining his coalition, and I think that that's why Mansour Abbas keeps hinting that he has a recording of their negotiation on his cell phone. And I think that one of the reasons they don't push this, or that Netanyahu has tried to keep this thing on the back burner, is that he knows that having this recording come out where he's negotiating with Mansour Abbas would be very damaging at this point. I think also Netanyahu has to be very, very careful about his dealings with Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, because they're showing signs of going rogue, and as they do, for example, I think one of the most interesting things that happened was that Ben-Gvir and Netanyahu were invited to Kfar Chabad for an appearance. It was very important to Netanyahu that he not appear on the same stage with Ben-Gvir. And so they asked Ben-Gvir, he's been asked this several times, were you insulted by this? And instead of being a politician, what Ben-Gvir said was, look, I lay on the barbed wire for this man, and this is what he does to me. And I think first of all, it shows, he's trying to show that he's not a politician, he's not a usual politician, but also he's laying out a shot over the bow at Netanyahu, saying, you better be very careful about what you do with us.
Right, and to that exact point, Smotrich, has claimed that he wants to be part of a Netanyahu-led government, but it's exactly that, a Netanyahu-led government, of which he would simply be part of the coalition. But we're talking about both him and Ben-Gvir, who are known for being provocateurs. How likely is this to be a stable government? Is Benjamin Netanyahu sort of going to be, I dare to say it, but a puppet under Smotrich and Ben-Gvir?
No, that wouldn't happen to Netanyahu. The only question is, the stability depends on the size. Okay, so at the moment, we're basing everything on polls. If, for example, a Netanyahu-led government had 65 seats, it would be more stable than if it had 61 seats, okay? But it's not that they will that he'll be
overrule
a puppet.
Him, so to
no,
speak.
They wouldn't be a puppet. And he made it clear, he did say when asked specifically, would you have Ben-Gvir as a minister in your government? And he said, absolutely. If he wins that many seats, of course he will. But he won't get, this is what Netanyahu said, he will not become defense minister, finance minister, or foreign minister, maybe, I can't remember. He said those main portfolios will go to Likud members. And what's interesting, and he's right to say this, because one of Benny Gantz's problems is that he ignored his own party while making all kinds of coalition deals. And, politicians, the point is, this is politics. It's not that they all love each other. In fact, most of them hate one another, personally. But, and when Ben-Gvir, what he did when he said, I was very hurt when Netanyahu didn't want to appear with me on the same stage. I think what he did, first of all, I think he meant it. I think he was hurt. But it also, he came off as being very sincere, because how many politicians will admit that? In fact, as Netanyahu said, fine, let's put the insult behind us that Smotrich called me a big liar. Whereas Ben-Gvir said, yeah, my feelings were hurt. So actually, I think that gave him, some credit.
But it seems like there is a discord here. We're talking about the fact that one of them is saying, this is all political play, let's just put it behind us. And the other one is saying, I'm actually deeply hurt by this. So does it seem that there could be cracks in what's shaping up to be an uneasy alliance?
Yes, I think at some point Netanyahu is going to look back on this election and wish that it happened, say, today instead of a week from now, because the way things have been going in the last few days have not been going in his favor. I mean, one of the things that's very important about this election to Netanyahu is not only trying to get to 61, but trying to get as many seats from the Likud as he can relative to
the other parties,
Ben-Gvir and Smotrich.
Right.
Because that's what gives them the kind of leverage where you can say, sorry, we have an enormous number of seats.
Therefore, we need more ministries and better ministries.
And better ministries.
Better ones.
And the more seats that Ben-Gvir and Smotrich can
the more leverage
achieve,
they'll have.
The more leverage they'll have, and I think there's another problem that Netanyahu has, which is that the more infighting there is right now. This is why I say that I think that he wishes the election would happen today and not in another week. The more infighting there is on the right, the more likely it is that Likud voters who are dyed-in-the-wool Likud voters and who would not vote for any other party, including Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, are going to say, okay, all right, my best solution here is sit this one out. Stay home and not vote at all.
Right.
I won't compromise my principles.
But I won't vote. And by the way, Likud voters are notorious for staying home. That's another interesting thing, which is, why is it ironic? Likud is the largest party. If it's true that its voters are notorious for staying home, imagine how much bigger it would be if they didn't stay home. But here's the thing. That's a good question, whether it's hurting him in this last week. First of all, I'm kind of shocked every time I run into Israelis who aren't paying attention to any of this stuff. I'm actually surprised because, you know, I'm used to delving into it and we're discussing
Are you though? We're talking about Israelis that have actually now been 4 times to the polls,
right.
5 times to the polls.
They are
really
weary.
Had enough.
No, they're weary, and therefore all of these details. It's a lot of them are saying. I had a taxi driver ask me, when is this election again? Because the traffic on the bridges where there are these, he didn't even know the date of the election. He was just annoyed that there are demonstrations, pro and anti-Netanyahu demonstrations going on. The point is whether it will affect him. It's true that there's all this infighting, but you know something? On the other side of the spectrum, there's worse than infighting. They wouldn't even join together. The Labour Party and Haaretz, that are virtually indistinguishable, wouldn't join forces. And now both of them are hovering at the electoral threshold. Maybe not. I'm talking about polls. I don't know. Maybe that's not true. They're not. They are all, talk about infighting, at least the right got its act together. The left is completely at odds. So why would this only affect Netanyahu's chances? I don't know.
It's going to be very interesting. There's a lot of things coming out in this election that people are saying this could be the decisive election, or Israelis may end up back at the polls. Ruthie Blum, columnist for the Jewish News Syndicate, and Bradley Burston, a columnist for Haaretz Daily. Thank you both so much for your analysis and your time here this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.